Thanks for clicking on the video. Like, subscribe, and share if you find this useful or interesting. Today we're going to add some curves to the tip. Right now, the nose, I said tip, I mean nose. Right now, there's a little bit of curvature on here, but it's all in a plane. And so even after we blend, there's a flatness to it. And you can totally see it in top view. You see it a lot on the tail, and you see it a little bit on the nose. I want this to be completely round. I want this to be completely rounded here. And when I look at it from the side, I want it to be rounded this way as well. Last time I talked about how we're not allowed to align things completely across the polygons. The polygons that form a face cannot be aligned to each other. This applies here on the nose, and this applies on the tail. It's important to note that it doesn't apply at all to these sections here, because we're not making a face across this section. We're only growing faces on the sides. But here we are making faces, so it does apply. Here, theoretically, you could align your polygons. It would be a waste, because even if you align these surfaces completely to each other directly with the primary surfaces, it's not going to look that good, and you will have lost all control in the face itself. So it's totally not worth it. I do not align these curves and these faces. I use blends. But here we have to be careful. When we manipulate these curves in 3D, we need to make sure that these three curves do not align to each other. This can't be aligned to this, and this can't be aligned to this. And same thing over here. These two cannot be aligned to each other, and these two cannot be aligned to each other. They have to form a distinct corner. All right, let's do it. Instead of working from more or less the top to do the outline and the side view to do the elevation, for the tip, we're going to consider the plane of the layout to be the base orientation. We already have control sketches in this base orientation. So these are equivalent to our outline, and we're going to create sketches perpendicular to this. That means aligned, like when we align our view like this, the curves we create will be drawn this way. So our elevation is going to be up from the plane of this layout. How do we do that? Well, we need to create a silk pose that has that orientation. Now, I need to add some options to silk. Let me close this file so it's not at the bottom here all the time. I'm going to hide this. I'm going to hide that. No, I'm going to hide these guys, and we're going to build our silk pose from these objects. Now, it's really, really annoying right now that I don't have a ZX option in the drop down for the final axis output. I will add that. I just don't have it right now. So these two lines are parallel. That means we only need to create one plane that has the correct orientation, and then we'll be able to clone it over to the other side. So of these four corners, one of them is going to have a relatively easy way to create the orientation we want. And it's actually a little bit in the trick when you know you're not going to get the orientation you want is to work in reverse right off the bat. So what do I want? I really wish I could do origin, X, and Y, but that will give me, because I don't have ZX in the drop down, it won't give me what I want. So I'm just going to work in reverse and say origin here, X-axis here, Y-axis here, create the view, and then here I'm going to choose, let's try YZ. Nope, that's not what I want. Let's do ZX. That's close to what I want, but it's in the incorrect order. So I can build a new one relatively quickly off of this. How do I do that? I say, this is my origin. This is my x-axis, because I want to go in this direction. And then I'm going to say, this is my y. I create a new object. And this object, all I have to do is flip the y. So I'm sorry, it's very inconvenient, but I just create a first one in the ZX. That's not what I want. But then off of that ZX, it has all the points I need to create another one very quickly. And now when I take this guy and I put a sketch on it, always select it from the tree, always start the sketch here, always choose objects XY. Now this actually has the orientation I want. It's not the top, it's angled, but relative to the curvature of the tip, which leads to this layout, it is a local top view. So let's import the point at the opposite end of the curve right here. Now I'm going to hide my layout so you can see clearly that I've imported just this point. Start my polyline tool. If I was in construction, I need to switch out of construction. Make the 3 lines. Box select coincident. Box select to the origin coincident. And now I need to look at the original control sketches, which I consider to be the kind of like the top view, and this is the elevation. I want to import this line here, this guy here, because I want to draw construction lines here and here, snap them, and make them parallel to the local y-axis. And now this will set the heights. Now this guy in the back will set the XY, and this guy will only set the elevations. But I didn't really pay attention to the order, to the direction I was drawing this curve. These two curves kind of need to run from the same start to the same end. But I don't have to redo the sketch. I'm just going to, hold on, I want to grab just this point. I'm just going to make them very different heights. And then here's what's going to happen. I'm going to make a polygon out of this one. Hide the sketch. Then I'm going to turn on the original polygons, including this guy on the bottom. I'm going to pick this guy as the XY reference, then pick this guy for the elevations, and create the combined polygon. It didn't do what I wanted. Let me hide these control sketches, select this guy as the XY driver, select this guy as the Z follower, create the combined polygon. And I can see here that the heights are doing what I want. They match. If the curve had been going in the wrong direction, the combined polygon would have flipped the heights, and then I would have had to set reverse to false here. But this time it didn't happen, so I'm fine. I'm done with this one. I can hide this. Hide all the original control polygons, turn the layout back on, and now I want to do something similar to this over here. How am I going to make the correct orientation thing on this one? I could start over and play around with all the options on this, but I don't have to. I've already created the one I want. It's going to be the same over here because these two lines are parallel by symmetry of the whole surfboard. So I just select this point, click the silk pose here, create a new silk pose, and it has the mode PR, and the position comes from this point, and the orientation reference comes from this guy. It's ready to just put a sketch on. And we hide all the stuff that's not relevant anymore. I'm going to import the point at the end of my layout. Okay, I got it. Now I'm going to hide the layouts. I'm going to show the control sketches. I'm going to import the center line. I'm going to hide all these sketches, put myself back in the sketch view, and now I have my endpoints and the X values I need to follow. Start the polyline, switch out of control, switch out of construction geometry, draw the vague 3-line sketch, box select snap, box select snapped the start and the end, then start the line, start single line, construction geometry, one about here, one about here. Don't trust the vertical, snap these points, snap these points, snap these points, snap these points, manually set parallel. Manually set parallel. This is paranoia, by the way. You can try to get away with not doing it and use horizontal and vertical. I just don't do it. Okay, so now I have this guy. Let me turn on the layouts and the control sketches. Actually, not the control sketches. I'm ready to go right to the control polygons. I've already done this other one here, right? Now I want to do the same thing here. So this sketch, give it a polygon, hide the sketch. This is my XY main sketch driver, and this is only a Z follower. Now let's see, is it going to match the elevations or is it going to get flipped? It's going to get flipped, and this is what it means to be flipped. It has applied this height over to this point and this height over to this point. That means that I drew this sketch backwards, but all I have to do is, I don't have to redraw the sketch. You could, but you don't have to. You just take the polygon and you reverse it. Now it internally runs in the same direction as the base curve, and so the Z values match. Okay, so we have good height matching on both of them. Let's actually make this let's actually make this parallel to the axis here. And now, before we can set the height, we have to take into account the rule 0 business. And how do I do that? I turn on the combined polygons. And what this means is that this polygon, this leg here, cannot be aligned to this object. And it shouldn't be above either, because if it goes above, it's going to fold the surface. This is one face, so it should form some kind of simple quadrilateral with distinct outer angles. See, this is an outer angle. This is an inner angle. Inner angles fold over. We don't want that. So I'm going to set the height. That's the only dimension in this sketch, is from the axis to one of these points. And I'm going to go as high as I dare, but not aligned with this line and not above it. I'm going to try 7. That's still okay. I'm going to try 10. That's still okay. And that's as far as I'm going to go. I'm not going to get any closer to being aligned. You can see a distinct angle between these two lines. It's safe. Close. Do a similar business on this curve here. So I just drag this point, set this line parallel to this axis, and now I'm just going to balance the progression of this gap. See, the gap is expanding here, expanding. I don't want it to expand too much, but I want to keep the same progression. I don't want to do this. I don't want it to expand and then contract. If anything, it should be slightly more expanded. I can also compare the distance from this line to this line and the distance right here. That tells me come back down a little bit more. A little bit more. Yeah, this right here widens, widens, widens. I want to keep that basic progression. This looks like 5 to me. Yep, I'm just going to make it 5. And now when I look in top view, I see the curvature. I'm going to hide everything except the combined polygons. I don't need to look at the original control polygons anymore that were attached to the layout. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hide all the layout items, and I'm going to show the primary curves and surfaces. This curve needs to snap to this polygon. This grid needs to snap to this polygon. This grid here needs to snap to this polygon. And then the same thing on the bottom. This curve needs to snap to this polygon. The bottom surface needs to snap to this polygon. The nose face needs to snap to this polygon. But we have to do them one at a time so we can remember which polygon it is we're switching. For this edge, it's 035. 035. Ready? Swap the curve with this guy. The curve is snapped. Now, I go to the control grids. I'm going to do the nose first. Which one do I want to switch? 035. What does it snap to? It switches to this guy. It has snapped. Now I want to hide this grid so I can see the polygon clearly. And then I grab the top face. What do I want to switch? 035. With this guy. Everything snapped. We're done with this edge. Let's do it again on the bottom. This curve here, it's 0.3. Its polygon that we are abandoning is 0.33. Remember 0.33. Switch to this guy. The curve is snapped. We have this grid visible. Let's just do it right away. 0.33. Snap it to the new polygon. It has jumped forward, but now the bottom edges, the bottom face is disconnected. Hide the grid so we can see the polygon clearly. Turn the grids back on. It's this guy. It's this grid that needs to jump over here. It's the grid for the nose face. Which one do I want to switch? 033. What do I switch it to? Hey, I thought I hid that. I thought I hid that grid. I must have turned it back on at the last second. Okay. I want to swap to this grid. In this grid here, for the nose face, swap 033 with the new one. Hit OK, click outside, boom, everything has snapped. Hide all the grids. Now I look at it from the top. I have forward curvature on the face at both the bottom rail and the top rail. It's not much, but this one was actually pointed backwards before when we looked at it from the top. Now it's fully pointed forward. And this one here was pointed forward a tiny little bit, and now it's significantly pointed forward. When I look at my faces, they have curvature. My nose has curvature in the right direction. And when I look over here in the blend, I'm not entirely relying on the blend to make the nose pointy. It has its own curvature. Well, this is really crappy because we need to adjust the cut points again to make this more even. This blend is too big. But remember, it'll never have perfect quality, and we will definitely need to swap it out. But we have more work to do because we've done this in this direction. But look what happens. It's upside down, but it doesn't. Look what happens when we look at it from this side. It's still kind of flat-ish, except now this line here has curve, this line here has curve. It's doing a wobble. The way we're going to get the wobble out is we need to take the rail curve right here, and we need to make it curve forward on both sides. We need to make this curve really pronounced this way and really pronounced this way, and that will give us full rounding on the nose. And once we have full rounding on the nose directly in the primary surfaces, then the blending will work well. This will be harder. We won't have any parallel lines. See, remember on these layouts, we had parallel across the top and bottom. So we're able to just create one properly oriented silk pose and then just copy it over. Here, we will be doing just as much work as we did on these main curves to get the alignment correct on these two curves to create the elevation, which will round in this direction. So we'll do that next time. And I'm going to save this as nose top view shaping. So we've shaped the nose in the top view. And that's the file I'm going to share. All right, catch you next time.